You are a visionary, an entrepreneur, a business owner. You want to make money from your passion and create the freedom that you've dreamed of. But it's slow. The income is slow, the impact is slow, and the freedom is slow. And here's the kicker. You've actually never been busier. You're working longer than ever, burning through daylight, and your family have forgotten who you are. You're tired and frustrated and you can't even sleep well at night. The business just feels so heavy, and all you ever wanted to do was just make the money you want to make doing the things that you want to do. And that's where I come in. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I'm the host of the Business Acceleration Podcast, where we shift your business from heavy to light, time poor to time abundant, and from income lack to income growth. We're going to achieve it together with my 20 years experience as a psychologist, helping people just like you to break through their barriers. And we're going to throw in a little of the woo as well. So thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. And we are spoilt today to have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Stacey Uhrig, and she is going to talk to us about a legacy brand that she's working on at the moment and what that is. I hadn't even heard of it until you mentioned it, Stacey. So I'm sure everybody's going to have lots of questions and are just as intrigued as I am. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, guys, just before we get started, we are recording while the bushfires are happening, and there might be moments where the Wi-Fi drops in and out. We are doing this on Zoom at the moment, and it can be a little bit temperamental with everything that's going on environmentally. So just bear with us as we make the best of this while we do our recording.
My prayers to Australia. I do have a good business partner that actually is in Brisbane, so she doesn't have the fire issue, but she does have good friends on the coast, and we were talking today about that. So I'm so sorry that you guys are experiencing that right now.
Thank you so much. So, Stacey, tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Sure. So real briefly, Stacey Uhrig, I'm located in the States. I'm in a state called New Jersey, which is about 30 miles directly west of Manhattan. So I'm very close to New York City. I'm considered a New York City suburb. I've lived in this area my entire life. I'm in my late 40s, 48 years old. I'm married. I have 2 children. They're both adopted from Korea. And I have a very varied background when it comes to professional work. I actually started my professional career as a speech pathologist and audiologist working with the autistic community. And I really love that. I definitely have found over the course of my 48 years that I'm a helper. And I absolutely loved working not just with my students, but with the parents. What I really found was when I was working with my students who primarily were nonverbal, I was spending a lot of time talking to the parents and providing a lot of, and I'm going to put in quotes, therapy. It's a very, very difficult scenario to be in. You know, when you have children, you have all these expectations and then they change at a moment's notice. So I really, really loved that that part of my journey professionally. And then I took that and I actually went into business with my family. And I took that helping piece and I helped build that business, but we were a training company. And I worked with hundreds and hundreds of software developers on revamping their careers, helping them with their resumes, helping build their confidence in trying something new and teaching them that the magic doesn't happen in their comfort zone. And we had that business from 1997 to 2012. And then I took a little bit of time off to raise my children. And it was in 2014 that I went back to work and was during that time introduced to a side business opportunity through a skincare brand called Rodan & Fields, which actually is also in Australia now. And I started that business as like a little side hustle to the job that I had taken. And it, within 18 months became substantial enough where I had some opportunities, and I gave me the opportunity to say, I just really want to focus my career on this right now and be more present and at home for my family. And so since the very end of 2017, this has been my primary source of income.
Okay, so is Roden and Fields, now my only experience of Roden and Fields is when somebody slides into my DMs and wants to have a conversation with me about my skincare regime. So
Okay.
I don't know much about it, but I think, is it a MLM?
It is. It's a multi-level marketing company, direct sales. It's what I really love about this particular brand, and what a lot of people don't know, is a couple of things. Number one, there are two doctors, Dr. Katie Rodan and Dr. Kathy Fields, who are the two doctors that developed this brand. And they are the same two doctors who created Proactive, which they have since sold in the mid 2000s, like 2015, they sold that. When they saw the success that they had with Proactive and they understood why it was successful, they understood that they had a real knack for formulating ingredients and creating great products, they decided to create a second brand. And that brand was called Rodan and Fields. And that was in 2000. And they started selling that brand in department stores. So in order to be sold in a department store in the States, you have to be owned by either L'Oreal Paris or by Estee Lauder. So they were purchased by Estee Lauder. They were sold in high-end department stores for 7 years. They were the number one selling skincare brand in a high-end department store here in the States called Nordstrom for many, many years. And what I find interesting about the story is that, and I've heard Dr. Field say this a number of times, the moment they sold to Estee Lauder, they thought it was going to be the Holy Grail, and almost instantly they realized it was a huge mistake. They thought they knew what they wanted. They thought they knew that they wanted, that was going to kind of make them legitimate. They were no longer going to be in infomercials. They're being sold in this big store. But what they realized was that they really loved the process of listening to people's problems and creating solutions. And once they were owned by Estee Lauder, that no longer applied. It just had a name and a face. So it was after about 5 years there that they actually broke a contract with Estee Lauder and bought themselves back for $3 million. Nobody had ever done that before, and I'm not sure that anybody else has. So what I love about that is this was an established brand. This is not a typical multi-level marketing company that has an idea and decides to build something around it to be sold in direct sales. This was an established brand being sold in department stores. The doctors saw the writing on the wall when it came to e-commerce. They saw that brick and mortar was going to not be as successful as it had in the past. And so they were very visionary. And what's very interesting about that story is they actually broke that contract without a solidified plan of how they were going to distribute. But they were following their women's instinct and their gut, and they knew they had to leave. So that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of guts, especially when you're already making good money, but they just saw something bigger. And what I really love about it, and it kind of gets us into this legacy brand concept, is that when they left the department stores, the very first thing they did was they created a foundation. And it's a nonprofit organization called the Prescription for Change Foundation. And their plan was to build this Rodan and Fields brand as a legacy brand, meaning that they would not take an income from this business and they would utilize a percentage of profits to actually fund this nonprofit. And so that nonprofit in the United States helps with organizations like Build On. In Canada, it's the We Foundation, and in Australia, it's the Smith Family Foundation. And so they actually pick these organizations that help the future, right? They help the children and the families. And so a big part of what we do is give back through that. And I was very inspired by that. And that was probably one of the main reasons why I decided to start this side business, so I could kind of build a legacy brand for myself.
So what does a legacy brand look like for you now, and what will that mean, for your family in the future?
So I think it's ever evolving. When I first started this business, it was not built as a legacy brand, and it was great extra income. And what I started to realize was it was substantial extra income, and it wasn't income that I all needed. I didn't need all of it. And so I'm a very empathetic person. I see things on the news and my heart just pours out, and I learn about what's going on in the communities around me. Like I'm sure you're experiencing right now with all the fires, and there's just something you want to do. So what I've done is over the past year, I have decided that every single month I partner up with a different nonprofit. I go and visit that nonprofit. I get a chance to know them. I understand the ins and outs. I get a chance to really understand their needs, and I start to volunteer. And during that time, I find out monetarily ways that I can help. And so I align every single order that I get in my business with giving back to that organization. So for example, just like you guys have the fires near you right now, we have a water crisis happening in a town called Newark. It's one of the largest cities in New Jersey. It's very close to New York City. It's a very, very old city, and it has very old pipes. And those pipes are leaking lead into the water system. And there are over 100,000 people affected, and they are not able to utilize their water. This is a very depressed area. There's a lot of poverty. Most people do not own their homes. Most people rent. And only homeowners are eligible for water from the state, which means that the people that are renting, which is the primary constituency of that city, don't have access to water, and they don't have the extra finances to be purchasing bottled water or filtration systems or what have you. So in August and September and October, I committed a case of water for every single order I got. And what I love about that, and when you talk about legacy, is it starts to change the way I see my business. It makes me more accountable to something outside of myself. And it makes me more accountable to the people that I've made a commitment to help, number one. But the legacy piece, above and beyond that, above and beyond the money, is my children. Because ultimately, as parents, we want our children to see what's important in the world, and we want them to pay it forward. So I involve my children in that process. Cases of water can be very heavy, and I try to donate upwards of 40 cases in a month. That's 2 runs of 20 cases in my car, which is an SUV. I cannot possibly move that much water. It's so heavy. So I engage my teenage son, and he knows if I say, hey, we're going to be spending Saturday going to Newark, he knows what that means. It's not a question. He pops in the car. Do we have to go get the water? We go get the water. We have this whole process. And so because I don't make it a big deal, I make it a part of our everyday, this is what we do, that I hope will get ingrained in my children, and that will be something that's passed down. So I see the legacy piece as twofold. One is teaching my children that giving back is not an extraordinary thing. It should be an ordinary thing. It should be something that we do as our right for being alive. And number two, being able to take some of the extra funds that I am making and utilizing that in a way where I can be giving back and helping other people as well.
That is such an inspiring story. And even as I'm listening to you share, I am thinking to myself, I want to be able to do something like that. Mm-hmm. How could other female entrepreneurs start to create their brand into a legacy brand for themselves and their families too?
So I think the very first step is awareness. I've been really vocal about this on my Instagram stories. And if you go to my Instagram, I actually have a highlight called Do Good. And I talk a lot about how I get a lot of people contacting me through DM or what have you saying, oh, I think it's so wonderful what you do. Good for you. And my response is, but you can do it too. And so I kind of try to educate people on the fact that it's not a difficult thing to do. And I give them the steps. And it starts with this. It starts with awareness. It starts with being aware and awake to what is going on around you all the time. It does not have to be monumentally hard. The littlest things go the longest way. So the first is being aware, and then start tapping into what's important to you and start finding local organizations that you feel authentically connected to. There's so many organizations. They don't have to be massive. It could be food banks. You know, I'll give you a really good example since it'll be relevant to what's going on with you right now. My girlfriend that I spoke to today, she's a Rodan and Fields consultant. She gave me a call. She wanted to talk about what I had been doing with a give back opportunity here and how she could replicate that in Australia. Like I mentioned, she's in Brisbane, but she has a lot of friends and family that live in the coast. So what she's doing is she's going to be hosting an event where if every single person comes to her home with a gift card, like a Visa gift card, in any denomination that they feel comfortable with, that she will collect them. And she has somebody that can pass that forward to the people in the coastal towns with the idea that they will use it in the stores in the coastal towns. Does that make sense? Okay, so if they come to her home, she's going to have a skincare event. People can have a little sip of something, share, try the skincare. If they bring a gift card, they'll be put into a raffle for some free skincare or from some free swag. So they're getting educated on her business, but they get a chance to see that it's so much bigger than that, and they have an opportunity to do good. And so finding that thing is the first piece. That's step one, being aware, being awake to what's around you, and just finding whatever it is that speaks to you. Watch the news, you know, pick up a newspaper, just find something. And then the second is just picking up the phone and giving them a call and say, hey, I understand that this is what you do, and what do you need? Because what I have found, I've worked with probably 4 or 5 different organizations over the last year. What I have found is that you'll have large foundations, like say the Prescription for Change Foundation from Rodan and Fields, that will give a substantial amount of money, right? And maybe some of that money is going to be used for capital costs. But then there's always so many extraordinary things that need to be paid for that you only have a very small number of these very large donors. And it's really what I like to call the foot soldiers that really make up the volume of the rest of it. And it's very hard to find those people. They're just far and few between, but they could utilize 100, right? So that's kind of how I see myself. I don't donate thousands and thousands and thousands. I donate hundreds. But if you can find a whole bunch of people that are willing to do that, that's where you start to get the momentum. So you call them, you find out what they need. I work with a local facility sometimes that is a shelter for pregnant, homeless, drug-addicted women and adolescents. Sometimes they need tampons. Sometimes they need formula. Sometimes they need gift cards. So I'll call them and say, look, I want to host you an event. Tell me what you need. And then I do very similarly to what I just explained to you. I shared with Raquel about the gift card concept. So people will come to my house. I'll have my skincare brand out. They can browse it at their leisure. We'll talk about our give back opportunity and why it's so important. We'll have a sip and something to eat. And then I get to talk to them not just about Rodan and Fields and our Prescription for Change Foundation, but I get to talk to them about this other organization that's local to them. So now maybe they can become a foot soldier too, right? So that's another piece of the legacy. And I think, you know, here's the thing. If you have other people listening to this that are in network marketing or have an MLM or self-employed, nobody's telling them that they can't do this. So what I found is this is something I've always wanted to do, and I kind of it just organically kind of happened. It was not an intentional thing. It was almost like it was a scenario where I had an event I had planned at my home for skincare. and I had made a commitment to bring diapers to this organization, and those days just kind of coordinated. And so I kind of said, oh, hey, and if you're coming to my house tonight, bring some diapers, because that tomorrow I'm bringing it. It just kind of, the universe was like, I see what you're doing, and we're going to bring it all together. And I love that. And I never left it, because it just made me running my business so much more purposeful. And when your purpose meets your passion, it's not hard, it's fun.
And you know what? Your passion just leaps out through the airwaves when you're talking. I mean, the audience can't see you right now, but you're glowing when you talk about it. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. I feel very full, and as a mom, as a working mom, you're running a household, you've got a crazy dog, like we talked about before, it's very easy to get depleted. And finding ways to fill your bucket that will allow you to feel fulfilled and can add income to your bottom line is really, for me, like a dream. And I just am so glad that I found it. And the interesting thing is I said no to it so many times because I had so many preconceived notions about what an MLM was, or what a network marketing company was, or what direct sales was, that I said no without ever asking a question. And it wasn't until I found out about their nonprofit organization that I actually started to listen. And again, it was a universe thing. It was just one of those things that I thought, well, why not? Just give it a try. The investment wasn't big. I could easily get the money back. Let's just go for it. And I'm so glad I did, because I did end up leaving my job. And I do have a tremendous amount of time freedom, which is great, raising 2 children. And it's just been an amazing win.
It sounds amazing. And I want to go back to something you sort of mentioned a moment ago, which was you didn't get into it initially. Like, there were a few false starts perhaps, where you'd had opportunities to get involved with an MLM, but you didn't because of your ideas around what it was. And I think it'd be really helpful to maybe myth bust a couple of those for people.
Okay.
Would you be happy to do that?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you what my preconceived notions were. And I'll admit, I didn't even really know a lot about what a side hustle was, or an MLM, or network marketing. Like, all of those terms were very foreign to me because I wasn't looking for it. But when I was first introduced to it, it seemed too good to be true. I'm not the kind of person that utilizes social media to show a highlight reel. It's just not who I am. And, when you're watching these stories, you see a lot of that, right? People want to show, oh, this is the perfect situation. And it wasn't until I kind of found a couple of people that kind of resonated with me, that were more real, that I could see, oh, I can see how this fits into their life, and I can see how it works. So first, I thought it was like all Barbie dolls and fancy people that were doing it. And I'm not a Barbie doll, and I'm not fancy, and I'm not driven by luxury items. And I was seeing a lot of that. So that didn't really speak to me. So it wasn't until I understood more about the give back opportunity that I got intrigued. I think another really big false notion is that, it's quick money, and you don't have to do any work, and you're going to become a millionaire. And that's just not the case. This is a business, and all that a really good, valid, legitimate MLM or network business will give you is an opportunity with really fantastic products. But at the end of the day, it requires work, and it requires time, and it requires commitment and self-motivation. And if you don't put those things in, you're not going to make any money. So very often we'll hear people say, oh, this was a scam because I spent money, but I didn't make any money. You're spending money because you're making an investment in a business. And you have to, if somebody's interested in an MLM, they have to do their research. But if you do the research and you see that they're a legitimate company and they have a legitimate backing, and you're receiving a product for the money you're spending. That's the legitimacy. When people say it's a pyramid scheme, you don't get anything when you give money in a pyramid scheme. So people assume that they know what a pyramid scheme is. And they'll say, oh, that's a pyramid scheme. And I'll say, well, how is it? And then they say, well, because you have to buy product up front. I'm like, but I'm making an investment. I'm purchasing inventory for my business. Every time I spend money, I'm getting something. And every time somebody spends money in my storefront, they get something. And so like e-commerce, that's all that it is. So there's a lot of misinformation and misnomers and myths, if you will, about companies that are not sold in a store and they're sold online. I mean, that's what it boils down to. So if somebody's looking for an opportunity, they have to do their research, and they have to really ask the right questions. And I think the right questions are, what are your products? How long have you been in business? How well do your products fare against your competitors? Do you have competitors? And, why do people like your products? So when I started looking at it, it really made a lot of sense to me because they did have a lot of legitimacy. This is their second billion-dollar brand business. The first one was Proactive. The second one is Rodan and Fields. That right there says a lot. And I've met these women. They are the most humble, kindest women, and they just want everybody to have great skin. So if you're looking at an MLM opportunity, you got to do your research. Do not assume because you're going to spend some money that you're going to make the money. It is a business and you have to run it as such. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. It's like spending money on a storefront and opening your doors and then not doing the work to keep people coming through your doors. You're not going to make money. It's the same thing. It's just that my doors are virtual.
So working predominantly from home and having an office at home and looking after the little ones and things like that. I mean, what's your advice to women who are perhaps beginning their journey into business and maybe beginning their journey into working from home, around staying motivated, perhaps?
It's very hard. I think it works well for me because I am just a self-motivated type. I'm a type A person. I've learned that about myself. And I find that most people struggle with the structure. Some people just do much better with somebody telling them what to do and knowing that they're going to get a confirmed paycheck regardless if they do it well or not. And they like that comfort. But with that comfort comes a lot of restriction. How much time you can take off, what days you have to be out of your house, what hours you have to be out of your house. That's not so conducive for raising a family. Now, I'm lucky. I have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. They're pretty self-sufficient. So I've kind of built it up to a point over the last 4 years where, I can make a lot of time to work my business in the nooks and crannies. That being said, I have a lot of friends that have young children. And what's so beautiful about this is that you can work any kind of networking marketing business as much or as little as you want. But if you have a specific goal in mind for really building a substantial business, my number one suggestion is to work it like a business. If you work it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. But if you work it like a business, it has the potential to pay you like a business. And that requires time. So that means that just like you would leave your house, you need to find and structure your day where you have work hours. If it doesn't seem feasible to have somebody come in and help out with the kids for 2 hours, or if you don't have the opportunity to do daycare or preschool or something that would give you, if you have real young children, an hour or 2 or maybe 3 a day, then you have to sacrifice something and work your schedule in another way. It means sitting down, if you have a spouse, sitting down with your spouse and saying, this is really important. I need to be able to work from 6 to 9 at night. I need you to be able to do bath and bedtime. Or it might mean that you get up earlier. It might mean if your household gets up at 7, you get up at 5. or it may mean that you work later into the night, or it may mean that you ask a parent or a close friend or a sister to come for 2 hours a week so you can go to the local coffee shop and just get some work done. It is possible. How much you're willing to adjust your lifestyle is going to depend on how important it is for you to make this work.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what's next for you in your business journey?
So that's such a good question because it's in the process of evolving. So one of the things that I've learned about myself over the last, 28 years that I've been working, is that I do love to help people, and I'm an excellent listener, and people come to me for advice. And so when I ended up starting this skincare business, I found that I spent a lot of time. I have a team of about 135 people, and I found that I spent a lot of time coaching them on mindset and the things we just talked about, like how do you schedule your time, all of that. But it all came down to their belief that they could or could not do something. There's a lot of fear when you go into your own business. Fear of failure is probably the biggest thing. And so I spend a lot of time mentoring and coaching people on the fact that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is one of the most positive things you can do in your life because it means that you're trying. And what I found is that a lot of people in my business that were not a part of my team were getting wind that I was very good at this and were coming to me for help. And so what I've decided to do for 2020 is I've actually, in tandem to running my business and continuing to build it, because the legacy brand piece of it is so important to me, I've started a second business where I'm going to be doing resilience coaching and coaching people on adversity and showing them, illustrating them through a series of exercises that I've created, how resilient they are and how much adversity they've overcome when they haven't even realized it, giving them the ability to walk away from the workshop with a much greater sense of empowerment, which always leads to personal peace and freedom. So I have been working on that now for the last 7 months, and I've been doing that through many 1-hour sessions with local networking groups. And in 2020, I'll start launching a 3-hour workshop, when my first one's going to be in February. So I'm really excited about that. And that'll be the first time I have a chance to really dig deep and dive deep with people the way that I know that they need it.
That sounds amazing. So, Stacey, how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
So there are a couple of ways. I'm very active on social media. So if you're on Facebook, you can find me just by typing in my name. It's Stacey Uhrig. It's STACEYUHRIG. I'm also very active on Instagram, same handle, Stacey Uhrig. And for people that want to know more and dive deeper into what I do, I have a website, and it's staceyuhrig.com. So it's www.staceyuhrig.com. And that is really the best way for them to learn more about what I do and get in touch with me.
Thank you so much. I think that you've really inspired many of us to go away and start thinking about, creating a legacy brand. And I'm sure there'll be people who've got questions that want to get in touch with you. And I will put all of your contact details in the show notes, guys. So if you want to get in touch with Stacey, I'll make them clickable links that will take you directly to her various social sites. But Stacey, just before we wrap it up, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the entrepreneurs that are listening today?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I'd love people to walk away with is don't be afraid and don't think small. I was a small thinker. When I used to hear people say dream big, that meant literally nothing to me, because I think I was on a hamster wheel. I think I had stopped dreaming. I just kind of felt like I was in this, and this is what we do, and we work 40 hours a week for 40 years for somebody else, and we walk away with a 40% of our income. And I just didn't really believe, I truly did not believe that there was another way. And I had a lot of fear going into it, fear of failure, what would people think if I started this? And then what will they think if they see me doing this? And then what will they think if it doesn't work? And I talk to a lot of people that come to me and they'll say to me, what if it doesn't work? And I say to them, but what if it does? How much time do people spend worrying about the possibility of failing? If they took that amount of energy and put it into the possibility of succeeding, they would try. And so what I would encourage people that are going to listen to this is just jump. Just jump. It doesn't matter if you fail. Failing means that you're trying. And even if that particular thing doesn't work out, you'll have learned something about yourself in the process that's going to take you to the next part of your journey.
That's such sage advice. I love that. I think that, we talk a lot on this podcast about spirituality and, the application of universal laws and hermetic principles and things like that. And this idea of, limiting beliefs and mindset being that collection of beliefs you have about a particular area is so important. It's like as within, so without. If you have fear and you think that it's going to fail, then that will be what you get. If you go into it thinking that this is going to be a big learning curve and you're getting an opportunity to help people in a new way, then that's what you will get. And it's so great to hear, that as entrepreneurs, we all kind of now are waking up a little bit more to the idea that we've been living an employee mindset of, well, I've got to work the 9 to 5 and I need the instruction and I need somebody to tell me do this, then that, then this, then that, and check on my performance and make sure I'm ticking all of the right boxes and I go to work at this time and I come home at that time. I think, being able to have that freedom of living beyond that employee mindset and stepping into an entrepreneurial mindset where you have less restriction and more capacity to choose how you want to spend your time, where you want to spend it, tap into your innate strengths and skills, and, as you said before, make money doing the things that you want to do. I think that's absolutely the sweet spot. I think you've hit it on the head there. Yeah. So I want to say thank you so much. I have, so much gratitude for you giving up your time to be with me today so that we can learn from you. I really appreciate it, Stacey. Thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity to share the story, and I hope it inspires someone that's been questioning what they're doing or how they're doing it to think about it from a different way. I always say to people to flip their mindset and see their challenges through a different lens. And I hope that after listening to today, it'll have inspired at least one person to flip their mindset and see it through a different lens.
Oh, no doubt. Well, thank you. I'll let you get on with your day. Thank you so much, Stacey. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope that you enjoyed it and got a lot of value from it. Help me help others by sharing this podcast. And if you feel called to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, remember to let me know so that I can send you a very special thank you gift. Now go and build your dream business, and I will see you next time. Bye.